Last week, Cody Rhodes got the WWE Championship back from Drew McIntyre. This week, Drew McIntyre quit. Jacob Fatu kept acting like the most dangerous man on the blue brand. The Wyatt Six and Solo's bargain bin bloodline had another match that nobody asked for. Jade Cargill beat Mitchin. Then Rhea Ripley reminded everyone who the real star in that feud is. Tiffany Stratton kept moving toward the women's US title. Trick Williams stole a win over Jacob Fatu thanks to Drew getting involved. And Randy Orton took what should have been a respectful WrestleMania contract signing and turned it into a full-on crime scene. Yeah, SmackDown had some stuff, but it could have been better. But anyway, welcome to the T-Drop, Strong Brew, Soft Behavior. We are going over this week's SmackDown, which had Cody and Randy Orton begin their official feud towards WrestleMania 42, among other stories. But this is the important one for this week. Was it great? We'll see. What's going on, Rage Star? This week's SmackDown, I gotta say, was one of those shows where you could feel WrestleMania is getting closer because everyone is rushing to write the goddamn story because that's how annoying this was. Everyone is either going crazy, crashing out, positioning themselves, or trying to murder their friends. Cody Rhodes is a champion again, but Drew McIntyre is not taking that well. Jacob Fatu continues to feel like one of the best presented acts on the show. Randy Orton and Cody went from mentor and student respect to attempted manslaughter by the end of the night. And somehow in the middle of all this, it's got cursed. Jelly rolled through hands, and the women's tag division continue its ongoing campaign to make everybody tired. So let's get into this. We start with Drew McIntyre and Nick Aldis opening the show with Jacob Fatu. They opened by reminding us that Cody Rhodes won the WWE Championship back last week from Drew McIntyre after all the Drew Cody Jacob Fatu chaos. By the way, pause that there. Apparently, with the whole video of Cody winning, the one, that viral video that everyone thumbed down, and apparently there was a heavy level of thumb down, they're saying all those thumb downs are botted. Take that for a grain of salt, whether it's true or not. Even so, it's crazy that one fan or a couple of fans will go all crazy to just thumb down a video. That's freaking crazy. But anyway, we'll continue. We see the usual wrestlers arrive shots and so on and so forth. Nick Aldis is backstage checking the contract for Cody and Randy's signing later that night. But before he can focus here, comes Drew McIntyre, walking through the crowd with a mic like a man who had lost both of his belt and his inner peace. Drew tells Aldis to shove the contract up his butt. Strong start. Drew climbs onto the announcer table and says the title was stolen from him. He says Aldis just had to have Cody as champion and demand Aldis come out and make it right. Aldis comes out and says there is nothing to make right. He says part of being a champion is defending the title. All he did was make Drew do that. And Drew lost fair and square. Drew blames Jacob Fatu getting involved and says Cody got his corporate belt back. Aldis objects to being called a corporate stooge, then points out the obvious. Drew was the one who kept messing with Cody's business in the first place. So for Drew to complain about being screwed after spending weeks screwing with other people, Royal Rumble, any SmackDown that Cody was involved, Elimination Chamber, you say it, I named it. That's rich. Aldis flat out says it looks like Drew wanted Cody out of the picture because Cody beat him the first chance he got. That's true. That's why Drew was scared, I guess. Drew storms into the ring and starts threatening Aldis again. And then here comes Jacob Fatu. Man, Fatu's presentation is always great. Fatu gets in the ring, stares Drew down, and says there's nothing to fix. Drew wouldn't even be champion if it wasn't for Fatu. So let's state the facts. Fatu fits the situation last week. Drew is no longer champion, and if Drew wants to blame somebody, he should blame Jacob Fatu, because Fatu is the one who screwed him. Then Fatu asked the question, what the hell is Drew gonna do about it? That's, guys, is how you present a killer. And Drew's answer? He says he's done with all this and then he quits. He leaves back through the crowd. Now, obviously, in wrestling, quitting usually means see you later tonight. Or maybe even next week. Who knows? Because he quit before, didn't he? And he came back a few weeks later. But as characters beat, it actually tracks. Drew has been spiraling for a while and losing the title after all this obsessive behavior finally pushed him over the edge, at least for the moment. So, after all that, very long segment, we get some backstage segments. Backstage, we see Alexa and Charlotte Flair walking ahead of their women's tag title shot later tonight. It's actually adorable seeing this because for some reason, they've been poking at R-Truth being a little, having his head shaved off. So you see Charlotte Flair, like she didn't have a mirror to check her makeup or her hair or whatever. So she looks through the shine, I guess, the reflection through R-Truth's head, which was kind of weird. And then Alexa is like telling her what she's doing and they continue walking. But I thought that was interesting. We also see the Miz getting ready for Miz TV with Jelly Roll, which is already enough of a sentence to tell you that Danhausen nonsense is probably coming soon. Elsewhere, Solo Sikoa and his goon squad have the lantern. Solo says, last week went perfectly because the Whites are not contenders, and now they have the lantern. Again. How many times we're going to do this, guys? We've been doing it since before Survivor Series. I'm done with this. We got to keep going. Give me something new, guys. Give me something new. Anyway, he gives it to Tama Tonga since Solo and Tala Tonga are about to face Uncle Howdy and Eric Rowan. Everybody leaves except Tama. And then Shinsuke Nakamura shows up. Nakamura asks Tama when he's finally going to decide to be his own man. They even share some Japanese before Solo comes back, tells Nakamura to stay the hell away from his family, and leaves with Tama. Still nothing meaningful for Nakamura, but at least he exists in the universe again. A little progress for Nakamura. I'm thankful for that. Yes, do not disrespect Danhausen, guys, or you will be cursed, just like Arese say. After that segment and a commercial break, Aldis is backstage talking with Fatu. Fatu is still hot, and then Trick Williams rolls up, trying to talk to Aldis. Fatu immediately tells Trick to shut up and says the only job Trick has is getting his butt whooped by Fatu. Aldis tries to calm things down, but Fatu storms off, and Trick starts complaining that Aldis needs to do his job. So Aldis does his job in the funniest possible way that you would expect. He makes Trick Williams versus Jacob Fatu for later that night. Trick objects, and Aldis tells him one wrestler already quit tonight, and he'll be happy to add another on the unemployment line if Trick keeps it up. Nick Aldis remains one of wrestling's better managers so far because he talks to wrestlers like a principal who is absolutely done with these kids. While, our other guy is acting like he can't control his own asylum. Anyway, we get Uncle Howdy and Eric Rowan against Solo Sikoa and Talatanga. And I'm just going to be real with you. This feud, like I said before, we need to finish it. This needs to desperately get somewhere. Rowan and Tala starts with the usual big man collision stuff. Nobody moves. Then Tala lands a right hand and shoulder block. Headbutts, more lumbering offense. Solo comes in. Rowan tags Howdy. Howdy gets some corner stomps in, and eventually Tala yanks him outside and starts throwing him around ringside. Tala even hits the world's strongest slam on the announcer's table, and the table doesn't break, which honestly, it was weird. It felt like the most emotionally consistent part of the segment, but still was weird. Back in the ring, Solo gets heat, Tala gets heat, more headbutts, more slow offense from these big guys. The crowd is mostly silent throughout this match. That silence is doing a lot of the reviewing for me at this point, because eventually Howdy counters as Sister Abigail, attempts with a back suplex. Both men are down, and the hot tag brings in Rowan. Rowan starts running wild, drops Tala, gets a couple of decent moments, and the crowd finally wakes up a bit. Then everybody breaks down, blind tags, brawling at ringside. Gacy and Loomis join with JC and Loa. Then a brawl. Tama gets involved. Solo starts hiking spikes. Nikki Cross gets the lantern. Solo gets distracted, and that lets Howdy hit the Sister Abigail for the win. Uncle Howdy and Eric Rowan win. Great, sure. And then after the match, because apparently the universe refused to let this end, Tama attacks Howdy from behind and gets the lantern back. We're never going to finish this. I'm being honest with you. We're never going to finish this because eventually someone from the audience, if this goes to WrestleMania, someone in the audience at WrestleMania in Vegas better jump the fence for the sake of the IWC and just take the lantern. Take the lantern, break it, burn it, do something, because at this point, this lantern is worth more than anything, and this thing is never going to end. I'm seriously done with this. So yes, we are still doing this. This match was slow, plotting, and felt like another variation of a thing that has already run out of gas. Been running out of gas. The one interesting wrinkle is Solo increasingly becoming the weak link of this group and the guy who keeps eating losses for the group. But they really need to accelerate this story because right now it is spinning its wheels hard. We go backstage after this, Lord. Backstage, Damian Priest and R-Truth are watching the Wyatt match, and Truth mistakes Solo's crew for Judgment Day. Priest just kind of goes with it because at a certain point it's easier to do that than explaining things to Truth. Then Los Garças show up, complaining about what happened last week, and Priest tells them they can settle it with a fair tag match tonight, which becomes something that happens later. First, we will get Jade Cargill versus Michin. This is a non-title match, and Michin actually comes out hot. It was a rematch from a match they had a few months ago where pretty much Jade Cargill decimates her. So this is Michin trying to do a little revenge. So hence why she came out hot going against Jade Cargill. She does a drop kick, corner offense, hurricanrana, and a suicide dive. Jade takes over with the power game, pump kick, slam, and starts laying in body shots. Michin gets more offense later too. Pele kick, Sharanui, eat defeat. But every time it feels like maybe she's building real momentum, Jade just shuts it down with a size and force. Outside, Jade powerbombs Michin onto the barricade. Back inside the ring, Jade kills her with a choke slam and Jaded for the win. And Jade Cargill wins. Honestly, this probably would have been better if it were a little shorter. And Michin got a lot of offense in for somebody positioned way lower on the card than Jade. More importantly, after the match, Kathy tries to interview Jade, but Jade just takes the mic, as she should for the heel, and asks if everyone saw what she just did to someone who believed in her own hype. Then she says the world keeps telling her to be afraid of Rhea Ripley, but she isn't. Ripley is not a threat. Jay says she'll beat Rhea at Mania and prove she's always on top. And of course, as soon as you say that, that gets someone triggered. And that brings out Rhea Ripley, which immediately wakes the crowd up more than Jade's whole promo did. Then, as soon as she enters the ring, Jade backs off. Rhea grabs the mic and says Jade is running from the fight. Then she closes with the line that actually gives the feud some real juice. After Mania, Jade will be Ripley's biatch. And there it is. Rhea shows up for 10 seconds and suddenly the whole thing feels more alive. That's kind of sad and alarming for Jade. She needs to up her game. Level up 2026, right? Anyway, backstage, Cody finds Aldis and asks about the Drew situation. Aldis tells him not to worry about Drew and focus on the contract signing. Then Sami Zayn walks in to congratulate Cody on winning the title. But this gets tense fast. Cody says he doesn't want a problem with Sami, but he knows Sami said the same thing to Randy. Cody tells Sami he deserves a title shot and needs to stop being so demure about it. Sami does not like that. He says he can't believe Cody thinks he's politicking. He says yes, he respects Randy and admires him, but he doesn't look up to Cody because they're friends. There was a pause there. And friends are equals. Cody may be champion again, but Sami still sees them as equals and doesn't want to be talked down to. Cody says he looks up to Sami and he is inspired by him. And if Sami doesn't look up to him, that's fine. Just look at the title. Then Cody leaves. And Sami once again has another one of those meltdowns where you can practically hear the insecurity sizzling off him. Then Alister Black and Zelina walk up and Black asks if maybe the title just isn't meant for Sami. That pisses Sami off even more, and he tells Black to stay away. So there's very clear cooking something with Sami's ego, his pride, and this idea that everybody around him either has what he wants or thinks he can't get it. It's a good character material for Sami, but we've seen this already because a similar situation between Alister Black and Sami was done with two other people that are no longer here. Cross and Sami did the same program. Now we're just doing it with another group with similar looks. I guess that was the reason Kerry and Cross left, because they were planning to use them for that, and they said we don't need these two, so they let them go last year, I guess. Who knows? And Sami does have staying pride. Women's tag match. We get some tag team title themed this week, which somehow finds a way to become even more crowded and less appealing at the same time. When we come back from commercial break, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss head to the ring for their title shot against the Irresistible Force or something like that, whatever they're called now. They won last week to earn this opportunity. Before the champions even come out, though, the Bella Twins show up. Because apparently things were not messy enough already, we needed the Bella Twins to show up. Nikki and Brie grab mics, talk to the crowd, remind everyone they're from Arizona because they're there and they wanted the crowd to pop, and then announce they're next up in line for the belts and will be sitting ringside for the match. Great, fantastic. Exactly what everyone was begging for. More traffic in an already clumsy division. Then out comes the champion, the Irresistible Forces, Nia Jax and Lash Legend. The match itself is mostly what you expect. Heels jump the challengers early, Alexa gets isolated, Charlotte eventually gets the hot tag, and we work through the usual tag team title formula. Charlotte gets her moments, Bliss has a few, Lash and Nia do their powerhouse stuff. The Bellas are right there telegraphing that the finish is going to be nonsense. And sure enough, after Charlotte and Alexa start gaining momentum, Brie attacks Jax and causes the match to end in a DQ. Irresistible Forces retain the titles via DQ. Then everybody starts brawling. And in the end, Nia and Lash stands tall, even taking Nikki out with the old death scent. This whole thing felt painfully predictable once the Bellas showed up. And the bigger issue is we've seen so many versions of these teams orbiting each other that it all feels reheated. Also, Lash Legend really should be further along in ring than she looks right now. She was pretty good at Royal Rumble. I don't know what's going on between then and now, but hopefully by WrestleMania time, it'll get better. Backstage, Truth and Jelly Roll are talking. Then Priest joins them. Priest pulls Truth away, and Jelly then runs into Randy Orton. Randy tells him Miz talks too much on Miz TV. That is probably the wisest thing Randy says all night. Then we get Damian Priest and R-Truth versus Los Garza. This match was fine, perfectly acceptable TV tag match type. Los Garzas jump them early, Priest eventually gets angry and starts wrecking people. Truth gets his comedy offense going. By the way, talking about comedy, he was wearing a Stone Cold shirt, anticipating 316 Day, which you guys should definitely be watching out for. And he was bald like Stone Cold. I guess he was doing that on purpose. Anyway, and now he like I said, he Truth gets his comedy offense and actually gets to wrap them to the ring, which was a nice touch. Garza gets enough offense to justify being there, but the results is never really in doubt. Eventually, Priest starts cleaning. Truth gets the tag back in, and they hit the stereo finishers for the win. Priest and Truth wins, obviously. This was academic to the most point when it comes to this match, but not bad. And honestly, if the tag divisions is going to recover from the damage done by the Wyatts and solo vortex that's going on, Priest and Truth are the champs that can do it with Fraxium, the Motor City Machine Guns, and the Los Garzas chasing them. It's not the worst idea in the world. We just need those two other teams to get off the titles. Gargano is backstage, and Gargano is still depressed on a crate after Oba Femi wrecked him last week. Alex Shelley and Candice are trying to help, but nothing. I don't know what happened. It went from him waking up all of a sudden and he gets wrecked and he's now back in his plank position. I don't understand what's going on with him. They should just do a therapy session similar to how Kane and Daniel Bryan did. Just do that. Maybe we'll get something out of Gargano. Give us a better story than this. This is weird. Chris Sabin is not thrilled about his Alex Shelley hanging out with Candice and Gargano, especially since Gargano cost them the titles. But anyway, it's okay because Chris Sabin said it's whatever because next week the Guns have a match with Fraxium. So hopefully that will help them in the long run. But anyway, so at last, the tag side of things have a little life there, but we will see. After this, backstage, we get our next Danhausen thing. Miz runs into Danhausen, who is selling his shirt because, of course, he is. Danhausen says he wants a talk show. Miz gets all pissy, as Miz would usually do. Danhausen curses him for being a party pooper. Also, Miz is shocked that Danhausen has a shirt within a week of him starting in the WWE, and also even more shocked that his shirt is one of the highest selling merch on WWE right now. It's all jealousy right now. I wonder what that leads into. We'll see. Maybe Jelly Roll's involved in that. And, that means something is bad is about to happen once he curses him. But we will see on Miz TV what happens to him. We get to Miz TV. Miz TV is in the ring, set up, and Miz is there with Jelly Roll. And immediately, the Miz's mic starts having issues. Because yes, of course it has. He's cursed. He gets another one, and they start having some fun back and forth between Miz and Jelly. Jelly talks about the road to WrestleMania, especially Cody versus Randy, because he's friends to both of them, especially Randy. And he's excited to see the contract signing later tonight. He starts doing that thing where he sees celebrity involvement and assumes he should be the mentor. He offers to mentor Jelly in wrestling. Jelly respectfully turns it down and says he knows Miz's history of stabbing partners in the back. Miz then pivots and starts acting like he helped launch Jelly's whole life transformation. He says 2 years ago he helped Jelly when he was obese, and that was the moment Jelly knew he needed to lose weight. That was the moment this segment turned from goofy to something getting punched. Jelly asks if Miz is really trying to take credit for him losing 250 pounds. He gets heated. Miz says he liked Jelly better when he was fat. Jelly says fat or skinny, he'll whip Miz's ass. And Miz starts demanding respect as a locker room leader. Jelly calls him a locker room loser. Then the most fun toxic person in the world comes out. Kit Wilson comes out with a mic, because why not make this promo even stranger? Wilson says Miz should stop wasting time with Jelly because Jelly is the problem. At a moment, you thought he was supporting Jelly, but it turns on him. He starts insulting the face tattoos, the criminal history, and says Jelly is promoting an unhealthy beauty standard, which is an absolute insane sentence to say in a wrestling ring. But Kit Wilson committed to the bit. They start shoving. Jelly punches out Miz because Miz is cursed. Wilson bails, and the whole thing was ridiculous, but not boring. It was fine. Backstage, Ilya Dragunov and Apollo Crews are laughing at Miz getting embarrassed when Carmelo Hayes walks up. This was actually one of the better little backstage pieces of the night. Melo tells Ilya he's finally starting to understand him. Ilya says he lives between total confidence and the complete opposite, and that he doesn't know peace. Melo says he takes shots to make shots and knows Ilya gave him one, and points out there's no long line of guys trying to fight Ilya. Ilya says he can't fight Hayes while he's still fighting himself. Good, more of that. Ilya needs character rebuilding, not just random matches, which is fine. But maybe this is a match set up for WrestleMania, maybe SmackDown before Mania. Who knows? Then we get Tiffany Stratton. She is talking to the camera before her match when you see Chelsea Green rolling up in her wheelchair. And what does Tiffany do? She shoves Chelsea wheelchair away and keeps walking while saying she's coming for the women's U.S. title after beating Kiana James tonight. That was rude of her to do on Chelsea, but funny, and also a callback to when her husband, Matt Cardona, when he was Zack Ryder, got pushed on his wheelchair as well off a Raw ramp, if you guys recall from years ago. I think it was Kane who was the one that pushed the wheelchair off. It was this whole segment that every time this battle between Kane and John Cena, poor Zack Ryder was in the middle getting hurt. It was an interesting story. I was hoping Zack Ryder would get more from that, but he didn't, unfortunately. But we got a similar thing happening today. A little callback for those that know. Then we get Tiffany versus Kiana with Julia ringside. The match was fine, but nothing special. Kiana gets control for a while. Tiffany fires back with the handspring offense. Julia gets involved just enough to create chaos. Chelsea and Alba comes down. The whole thing starts wobbling towards Clown Fiesta territory. And eventually Tiffany hits the prettiest moonsault ever to win the match. This was serviceable, but the messy finish didn't help. Kiana feels like someone they want to do more with after Mania, but right now that just means she's in the role where she loses these kind of matches for now. So this, guys, given the way the writing team said about Chelsea Green, because Tiffany Stratton now is in the mid card, that means Chelsea Green can get a win from her, right? Based on their logic from Unreal. We'll see. Backstage, Trick Williams is with Kathy talking himself up until Sami walks in and humbles him a bit. Sami asks how things have been going lately because all Trick has really done is run his mouth without backing it up. Trick says Sami can hate all he wants, but if Sami didn't have a match, he'd drop him. But if Trick didn't have a match, he'd drop Sami too. Sami tells him he's here every week and easy to find. Felt like a little teaser for later down the line. But then we get, after that little segment, Jacob Fatu versus Trick Williams. And finally, SmackDown give us a match with some real spark because Fatu looks disgusted just standing across from Trick. They tie up, Trick tries to bring the fight, and Fatu just starts unloading. Chops, punches, headbutts, sentons, handspring moonsaults. Fatu's offense has this violent momentum to it that makes everything feel that much heavier. Trick gets some shine too. He lands a nice wheel kick, slows Fatu down for a bit, hits a tornado kick, neck-breaking, Urange, and starts getting the crowd involved. But the whole time the match feels like it's orbiting around whether Trick can survive Fatu's pressure. Fatu hits the pop-up Samoan drop, the corner hip attack, then swanton for a near fall. Trick starts fading, rolls outside, and Fatu follows. But then, of course, because wrestling can never let a clean finish breathe, Drew McIntyre shows up and attacks Fatu. Then lets Trick hit the trick shot back in the ring and steals for the win. Trick Williams wins. It's a good match, best one on the show for that night. The interference finish was obvious, but not in a bad way. Fatu still got to look dangerous. Trick got the win, and Drew officially unquit fast enough to avoid even one full episode of commitment. Then Drew hits Fatu with a claymore after the match, which really should get him arrested if he actually quit earlier. But logic and contracts have never been especially strong in wrestling. We get the final segment, the contract signing. The table's in the ring. Nick Aldis is there. Before bringing out Cody and Randy, he addresses the Drew situation and says, "Welcome back." Drew, and he said as a gift, Drew can face Jacob next week. Great. So we already got a match set up for next week. Hopefully it leads up to more potential stuff at WrestleMania. Anyway, back to the WrestleMania contract signing. First out comes Randy Orton so the crowd can lose their minds, singing about voices in their heads. Then comes out Cody Rhodes so the crowd can sing and say, "Whoa," 20 times. And here's the interesting part. Cody's reaction felt a little more mixed this week than usual. While Randy's is absolutely beloved right now. Very important to notice, even though WWE didn't notice, I guess. They said they both have mics. Cody speaks first and says his first WWE match was against Randy. That is true. He watched Randy's career and wanted to be like him. Then Cody left, and Randy supported him. When Cody came back, sometimes he didn't have his brother or his wife, but he had Randy. Cody says he has always been proud to be Randy's boy. Then Cody signs the contract and slides it over to Randy. Randy stands, and as typical Randy fashion, he looks confident, a little conflicted though. Then he says Cody doesn't understand. He needs this. He needs that title. This was supposed to be easy. Cody tells him he wants the best Randy ever at Mania. He wants the man who won the chamber. He wants the legend killer. He wants the master of the RKO. And when that final bell rings, Cody will still love Randy. So cute. That's enough for Randy. He signs, They shake hands, they hug, and then Randy immediately turns this into a felony. He rams Cody into the table, he kicks him low, and right there I'm already thinking, it's weird because Randy is so loved right now that turning him like this feels like asking the crowd to reject something they very clearly do not want to reject. They wanted him as a face, but WWE had other plans. But they kept going. Randy tears at Cody's shirt, throws him over the announcer's table, grabs the ring steps, and smashes Cody with them. Aldis comes out trying to figure out what the hell is happening, and Randy just shoves him down. Cody is bleeding. Randy bounces Cody off the upright ring steps, lays him across the announcer table, and starts battering him with punches. Then he takes the base of the ring steps, sets it against the table, and traps Cody's head in the little crevice that creates the stairs. All while people, including Jelly Roll, are trying to talk him down. Randy shoves Jelly away too. Then he leaves where Cody was. But not for long, because Randy obviously runs back down again with a chair and smashes the steps around Cody's head. Then he stands over him like a serial killer who just found his favorite soundtrack. Finally, Randy sits in the ring on a chair, holding the WWE Championship across his lap, while the crowd cheers this image. And that is the problem. This was supposed to make Randy look monstrous, but the crowd is still with him, loudly. So instead of creating a clean heel turn, they have accidentally created a situation where people just cheer Randy for being awesome, while Cody becomes a guy standing across from the cool villain. That is dangerously similar to the problem they ran into last year, when they wanted people to boo at the top guy and the audience just didn't want to. Still, as an angle, visually it was strong. It was intense. Execution-wise, it definitely made WrestleMania feel a little better. I just don't think they fully understand who the crowd wants to ride with going to WrestleMania. Overall, this was a SmackDown with some strong angles and some dead weight. The best thing on the show were pretty clear. Jacob Fatu continues to feel like an absolute killer. The Drew Fatu situation is getting a little hotter. The Cody Randy contract signing absolutely gave WrestleMania main event energy. And Trick versus Fatu was probably the best match on the card. On the weaker end, the Wyatt solo feud still feels stuck in the mud, and the women's tag title scene is overcrowded and overbooked. And some of the mid-card stuff still feels like pieces searching for a real direction. But if the goal was to leave the audience talking about Randy destroying Cody Rhodes, mission accomplished. The only issue is they may be talking about it in a way WWE didn't. So anyway, guys, let me know in the comments what you thought was the biggest development from SmackDown. Was it Drew quitting and then immediately unquitting? Was it Jacob Fatu continuing to feel like the most dangerous man on the brand? Or was it Randy Orton nearly destroying Cody Rhodes and still getting cheered for it? Let me know. Strong brew, no soft behavior. I'll see you on the next SmackDown talk.